Hello and welcome students to today's class. In this class we are going to be discussing on night auditing as part of front office operations management, the front office operations management 2. My name is Dr. Ray Mutinda, and so it's my pleasure to take us through this lesson for today. When we talk about night auditing, which is one of the major roles of front office operations, and one of the sections of front office that are quite important to the operations of our hotel, we are talking about a daily comparison of guests' accounts and also those accounts of the non-guests with revenue centers. So what you are doing at every point, you are comparing the guest accounts and you are comparing that with the revenue center transaction information. And so a night audit, as the name suggests, is so called because they do perform their work at night. And the key function or the outcome of this is that they intend to help guarantee accuracy in front office accounting. So that's what we are looking at here. So this particular employee checks the accuracy of front office accounting records and compiles a daily summary of hotel financial data as part of the night auditing. That's all what they do. Now, in most of the hotels, this night auditing task is performed by an employee of the accounting department. So that's the one that we're talking about here, but they are based within the front office. So ideally what you are saying, operationally, they report to the front office manager, while administratively, the night auditor reports to the hotel accounting department. And so what is the role of the night auditor? Now, the night auditor is concerned with a number of functions that we're going to be able to highlight here. And first of all, what they are concerned with is that of verifying the posted entries to both the guests and the non-guest accounts. And secondly, they also resolve they resolve all front office accounts and resolve room status and rate discrepancies. They also review the guest credit transactions against the established limits, and they also produce operational and managerial reports. Now, for that front office audit process to be complete, it is intended to fulfill all the above operations that we have mentioned here. So we continue with the role. So we're saying that we have to make sure that we track room revenues, occupancy percentages, and other hotel operating statistics. The night auditor also has to prepare daily summary, as you mentioned, and this will be a summary of the cash, the checks, the credit cards, debit cards, and even other activity like the gift certificates and anything that might have occurred within the front office that has a financial implication. They also must be able to summarize and report the results of operations, and this they will do to the front office management. There are particular duties that you need to be able to put across here that the night auditor does perform. And for you as an auditor to be able to do those duties, they will require to, first of all, pay attention to the accounting detail. An auditor in this case then has to be able to look at the very finer details of the transactions that are involved within the entire hotel revenue centers. The second thing is that you must also, they will require procedural controls. It will also require understanding guest credit transactions. You also require to be familiar with the nature of cash transactions that are affecting the front office accounting system. And the night auditor also should be able to track three key things. One, they should be able to track the room revenues. They should be able to track room occupancy percentages, and also be able to track any other operational statistic. And so, as you mentioned, they'll be able to prepare these reports, and ideally the night auditor operates at night when the hotel shifts have been closed. Now, the hour you're talking about, we are talking about the net auditing shift starting from 11 p.m., that's at night, all the way to 7 a.m. in the morning. And so as this staff member reports during the night, the assumption is that the hotel accounting day will end during that period of time. Most times than not at around midnight. That now they can be able to start compiling, balancing, and reviewing the transactions from the previous day. And why we are talking about the hotel accounting day ending is that our hotel operates on a 24-hour basis. And so for the night auditor to be able to start operating, then we are assuming a given day as closed. And so we have to close it at midnight. Then the night auditor will be able now to take over from that very point. So I may also need to mention that each front office must also be able to decide what time will be considered the end of the day. So this has to be one of the hotel policies that will be captured at every point, that the hotel decides on its policy on when does our accounting day actually end. So that's now what marks the auditing of that particular day that is ended. And so the duty of the auditor usually closes. I mean, it will be involved in the closing time of hotel revenue outlets. And so they'll be able to be involved when each one of the outlets are closing. And here we are thinking about the restaurants, the room service, the bar, the stores, and another outlet where sales revenue are being generated and where costs are being incurred. And besides that, any transaction that will take place during the audit work is usually considered business for the next day. And that is key because we have said that this kind of accounting assumes that the day's operations have come to a stop. And so anything else that starts from that point, because the hotel will be operating 24 hours, then it won't be considered for the following day. The key thing that the net auditor deals with is the cross-referencing. And cross-referencing here, we are referring to activities that are associated with comparing data that is found from different sources to ensure correctness of the audit. We give some of the cross-referencing there. We can compare online postings and the vouchers against either the guest or master or even the non-guest and employee folios. So comparing what was posted by the cashiers against what is available in the guest folio or the master folio or even the non-guest and employee folios. You can also be able to compare charge vouchers or the guest checks against the register tape or against the sales journal, what we call the Z report. So you can be able to compare that. Equally, you can also cross-refer room rate postings against the housekeeping room status report and also the registration records. So ideally, the work of auditing, therefore, will involve the act of cross-referencing, checking what is available in one set of documentation and with what's available in the other set of documents, as we have indicated, for purposes of comparing data to ensure correctness of the audit. The net auditor also is expected to exercise what we call accounting integrity, where we expect the night auditor, first of all, to establish guest and non-guest account integrity. And as we said, this one will be done through cross-referencing of the account postings with the source departmental documentation. The second thing that the net auditor process will also be involved in is actually to complete when, it's said to be complete when the total of guests, the non-guests, and departmental accounts are balanced. That's the only time we can say that the night auditing process has been completed. Now, an out of a balance position may also exist. And this will exist when the charges, that the debits and the credits that have been posted to the guest and non-guest accounts throughout the day do not match the charges and credits that were posted by the departmental revenue sources. So in that case, then we will be talking about an out of balance position. But ideally, we expect to realize a balanced position for each department. So when the audit is not in balance, we expect the Night Auditor to do the following. First, to thoroughly review the account transactions. So here we are talking about a case where the postings into the guests' accounts or the non-guest accounts and what is available at the source department are actually not balancing. Now, we expect then the Night Auditor, first of all, to thoroughly review the account transactions. And secondly, to review also the statements, the vouchers, the support documents, and even departmental source documentation. Those should be able to give them an indication of the reasons for that accounts not balancing for the specific departments. They'll also be involved in monitoring guest credit. And what we're talking about in this is that hotels usually do establish lines of credit, or what we call house limits or a credit limit for their guests and their non-guests. Now, these limits will depend on 3 key factors. They will depend on the credit card company flow limit. Secondly, they also depend on the hotel's house limit policy. And thirdly, they also depend on the guest status or the guest reputation. And so with that, then what we expect is that at the end of the hotel accounting period or the end of the business day, the Night Auditor will identify the guests and the guest accounts that have reached or exceeded the assigned credit limit. And having seen that, then they'll prepare a report that we call a high balance account report, which will be presented to the management to have a view of all the guest and the non-guest accounts that have reached or that have exceeded the assigned credit limit. So they'll be able to check on this as the Night Auditor does their postings. This is what they go through. This is the audit posting formula, where we're saying the net outstanding balance for the entire hotel should be equal to the previous balance, that's for the previous day, plus all the debits for that day, less the credits of that day. So if you are able to capture that, that's the major auditing posting formula that we use. Now, we also have to prepare another report we call the daily transcript. And a daily transcript is a detailed report of guest accounts that do summarize and update those guest accounts that aid transcriptional activity on that particular day. Now, if you're using a fully automated system, we expect the system to be able to give us a daily transcript report, giving us, detailed by the revenue center, the transcription type, and even the transcript total. We also produce another report we call the supplemental transcript. And this is a report of the non-guest accounts, which will summarize and update those non-guest accounts that aid transactional activity on that particular day. So those are the reports that we do produce. And so with that, then I want to proceed over to the night auditing process. And what you're looking at here, what exactly does a night auditor do, and what does this process involve? Now, the night auditing process will focus mainly on 2 major areas. As a night auditor, you'll be focusing on first discovery and correction of front office accounting errors throughout the through the cross-referencing process. And secondly, creation of accounting and managerial reports. And we will be able to talk about what kind of reports are these that we are referring to. So the process itself is made up of 10 main steps, which are going to go through each one of them. Now, the first step is completing the outstanding postings. We expect at the point when the night auditor takes over their duties at around 11 at night, that all the outlets will present their summaries for the previous day, giving the transactional summaries and all the supporting documents that they have. Now, those are expected to have been posted into the system and to the accounts of the guests and the non-guest accounts. In the event that there is any of them that has not been done, before the night auditor starts their process, they will be required to complete all the outstanding postings, both debit postings and credit postings. Then the second thing that they will do is to reconcile room status discrepancies. Now, we have two reports here which will be containing the room status for the hotel for a particular operation day. One of the reports will be prepared by the housekeeping department, and the other report won't be the one that is going to be generated by the front office. So the front office have their own occupancy status because they are the ones who are selling the rooms and checking out the guests, and the front office has also their own occupancy status report because they are the ones who are actually servicing the rooms. So what we expect that these two reports should be able to reconcile. And this is part of what we're talking about, the cross-referencing. So the night auditor will first of all want to make sure that the two room status, if there's any discrepancy, is taken care of. After they have done with that, then they verify the room rates. In this case, the night auditor will compare the registration records with the system-generated room reports. What we mean by this is that they'll be able to look at what is the room rack for that particular day against what was actually posted into the system for the guests and the non-guest accounts. In that case, then, what will happen in the event that the room rack and the actual rate posted do not match, then the night auditor will consider several areas to try to explain why is it so that these two are not matching. The first thing that the night auditor will do is in the event the room is occupied by a member of a group or a corporate rate customer, then they may need to check whether that rate is actually a discounted rate. Because that happens when you are coming in as a group member or you are coming in from a corporate client, but that company of yours that is sending you there, they have a rate that they have negotiated with the hotel, then you will expect the rate is going to be discounted. Second area where they can be able to check is if the room is occupied by a guest with a package rate who was on a special discount that was offered by the hotel. Then what the night auditor will check is that rate that was posted, the correct one. Thirdly, if there is only one guest in a room, and the actual rate is about 50% of the rack rate, then the implication might be that that guest is part of a shared reservation. And so what the night auditor will be checking is whether the second guest actually registered. And then the other area, the other possibility of checking is if the room is a complementary. Then we want to be able to check whether the appropriate supporting evidence for that rate is available. Ideally, we are checking whether the complementary room authorization form was actually signed and is available. So that's how we deal with that discrepancy between the rates, the rack rate, and the rate that was posted. Now, the next step is to balance all departmental accounts. In this case, then, it's more efficient for the night auditor to balance all the departmental accounts first. Then once they are done with that, then they look for the posting errors within and out of balance department. So they first do the balancing of all the departmental accounts, but in the event they find any that's not balancing, then it makes their life easier to only deal with the out of balance departments. Now, this process of balancing is what we usually call trial balance, where we are balancing all revenue centers first, then that's what we are calling the trial balance from a night auditing processes. Then the night auditor also deals with the verification of no-show reservations. So these were the guests who had done a reservation, but according to the records, they have not showed up. And so the night auditor will deal with that, and as they work on this, they will check, they are responsible to clearing the reservation files. Now, in the event that we find that there's a no-show, it may not necessarily mean that these guests actually never turned up. In some cases, the guests might have turned up, or might have been an error or posting of recording by the front office desk. So what the night auditor will do when they realize that this is recorded as a no-show, they'll first check whether it was a duplicate reservation, because it means if it was a duplicate reservation, one of them showed up, the other reservation has not showed up. Secondly, they may also check on the misspelling of the guest name while it was being reserved. Even they may also check whether it was a front office system entry error, front office or system entry error, or they may also check whether the front office actually forgot to cancel a properly done reservation. So if the guest canceled reservation and we forgot to cancel the same in the system, then that means at the expected date of arrival, the system will indicate this guest as a no-show. And that's the thing we're talking about here. So the night auditor, for them to explain a no-show, so they don't just pick it as a no-show, they'll need to look at, to check on every one of these. Now, in the event they realize none of this is applicable, then the night auditor will be able to post charges that are applicable for no-show, particularly if that reservation was a guaranteed reservation. Then the other thing that they do is to post room rates and taxes, and this will take place at the end of the day, at the accounting day. In that case, then the advantages of doing this, if you had an automated system, then the system itself will definitely be able to compute it for you. Okay, so the other step is the night auditor will be able to prepare reports. In case these reports will be for indicating the status of the front office activities and operations. So the first report that they do prepare is the final departmental detailed and summary reports. And these are meant to prove that transactions were properly posted and were all of them properly accounted for. Secondly, they also prepare daily operations reports, which are going to be summarizing the day's business, giving an insight of how much were the revenues generated for that day, how much were the receivables, and what are the operating statistics, and any cash transactions that are related to the front office. Then they also prepare the high balance report, and I think I mentioned about this report, talking about a report that will identify those guests whose charges are approaching an account credit limit that the hotel had designated. The other one is they also prepare the specialty reports, giving a report on group sales, the group sales report. And this one majorly will be showing the number of rooms that are occupied by a particular group, and for each group in particular, and the revenue that each group generated, and all the guests who have stayed frequently in the hotel, that the repeat visitor guests, and again the guests who are VIPs. That's why we're calling it specialty reports. Group sales, VIPs in the house, repeat guests, all of them captured within that report. Once the night auditor is done with all the reports, then they prepare cash receipts for deposits. In this case then, remember the night auditor also as this proven as a report of how much real cash is held in the hotel at that very point. And so they have to prepare this money for actual deposit to the bank. And so for them to do this, they prepare a cash deposit voucher, which is part of their auditing process, so that at least the cash can be deposited to the bank, any money that had not been deposited to the bank. For them to be able to know how much money exactly is available and should be available, then the night auditor will compare the cash payments postings and the paid outs with the cash at hand. So what I will try to say, the cash at hand should be equal to the total cash postings for that day less any paid outs. That's the formula that they use to determine whether the amount of money they're taking to the bank is the amount that should be taken to the bank at every point. Then they also do call Front Desk Cashiers to deposit cash at the end of their shifts. And what this one, we call the blind dropping, where the cashiers will be able to deposit cash and they don't check into the system what the system is saying about it. So at the end of their shift, they'll be able to deposit cash into the hotel cash deposit safe. And in that case, then they'll be able to record. I mean, they don't have a way of knowing how much in cash receipts that the system has recorded. And that's why we said this is what we call the blind report. I mean, blind drop. Just putting the money there, we'll be able to check the system later what has been recorded there. So now the system, I mean, the Night Auditor therefore will compare the system totals per cashier with the actual cashier drop document. And if there's going to be any discrepancy in that case, then the Night Auditor will have to report this to the GM or to the FOM or even to the finance controller to notify them about that difference. After preparing for the banking, then the Night Audit process proceeds on to clear or to back up the system. The backing up of this system will include the following. One, preparing at least 2 guest lists and printing them up. Now, one of it is going to be printed for backup, and the other one is going to be printed for emergency use. In that case, one of the lists will be held by the front desk staff, while the other one will be held by the switchboard staff or the operator. Secondly, they also print room status report. And this is meant to enable the front desk agents to identify any vacant and delayed rooms. And this should, should the front office system become inoperable. Now, we don't want to put all our confidence in the systems, so that's why we are doing backups. So they'll print a room status report, keep it, and give it to the front office for purpose of ensuring they have information of which rooms are vacant and are ready for sale, just in case the system collapses or becomes inoperable. They also print a guest ledger report. This one, they first prepare it. And this report contains the opening and closing balances for all guest accounts. Now, in that report then, it will be showing the expected arrivals. It will also be showing the stayovers. It will also be containing departure information, captured not only for one day, but also for several other days ahead. Then they distribute the reports. And what we say, if you look at the kind of reports you're talking about here, the information contained there sometimes is pretty sensitive and confidential. And therefore, the reports have to be distributed promptly by the Night Auditor. So they don't leave them there for other people to come and distribute them. The Night Auditor does the actual work of distributing these reports. So where do they distribute them to? As the nature of the reports have been showing, there are those that are going to go to the general manager, those that are going to be held by the front office manager, there are those that are going to be going to the finance controller. And so that's why he's saying those reports must be distributed by the close of the shift. And so that ends the work of the Night Auditor. So how do we ensure that the Night Auditing process was correct? So here we are verifying the Night Audit itself. Now, we may come across a number of types of posting and mathematical and clerical errors that can happen while Night Auditing is taking place. So how do we handle that? We have 3 major types of errors. The first one is the previous balance pickup. Then we have the transpositions and misplaced folios. Now, for the pickup errors, if the previous balance is entered incorrectly, so we also expect the end result also to be correct. Now, that's what we mean by the pickup error. So this one may happen if the system is either manual or is semi-automated, so the previous balance is entered incorrectly. Now, getting this one is not that easy because that means you'll have to go back, look at what was the previous entry, and try to see whether it was the right one. Now, the problem might be in the event that you are doing the previous entry of some 2 days earlier. Now, going back to be able to trace that may not be that an easy task, but that's what we call a pickup error. Now, then the transposition error. Now, this is a type of error that occurs when numbers related to a transaction are reversed I'll give you an example here. Instead of posting $324, the front office cashier posts $342. Now, this is a very easy error to check. We usually handle or identify transposition errors by just dividing the summary, not summary really, but the difference between the two numbers, we divide that by 9. If you find it can be divided by 9, then that's a transposition error. So what will mean? You take the smaller number and it subtract it from the larger number. In this case, if you look at these two, if you deducted 324 from 342, what you have there is 18. Now, if you find the result is divisible completely by 9, then that indicates a transposition error. Then the missing folios may be another error that may also happen, and this will happen majorly if we are using a manual or a semi-automated system where a folio has been filed incorrectly or has been removed from the folio bucket. In that case, then you'll have that. So misappropriation may take place for checkout guests. So when a guest is leaving, you may actually put it the wrong place, or even when a high balance account may have been temporarily removed by the credit manager. So in that case, then a written note may be helpful to indicate that this high balance account has been actually been removed there. So when a folio is missing, the night audit will simply the night audit simply will not be able to balance because that account is not there. But when you're using an automated hotel system, this one is not an issue because it will be captured within the system. I think we have talked about this, the daily and supplemental transcripts, where we mentioned that a daily transcript refers to a detailed report of the guest accounts, while the supplemental one is a detailed report of all the non-guest accounts. So that's what we are talking about in that case. So that's the night auditing process, and I thank you very much for your time. Thank you.
These televised lectures supplement our robust online learning going on our MKU online platform. You can view more on our televised lectures via our online platform. We are in a digital era, and Mount Kenya University knows this. The following are the steps to follow so as to complete your online application. Download the application form from the website www.mku.ac.ke. Attach copies of your academic certificates and ID. Pay the application fees via M-Pesa pay bill number 270988. Your ID is the account number. 2,000 shillings is the charge for a postgraduate. You can also deposit in the bank accounts provided on the website. Then email all the above to apply@mku.ac.ke.